This is lecture number 2 on seismic stratigraphy. We have been talking about the seismic reflections and the nature of those reflections. Today we will continue talking about the nature of reflections. It's very important regarding seismic reflections to talk about the angular relationships. Angular relationships of beds means you have some horizontal beds and some dipping beds. So it's really good thing to detect this these angular relationships using seismic reflections. Also, conformable sequence of sediments. They are consisting of individual beds laid down on top of each other, not necessarily horizontally or sequentially vertical upward. So we need to know the reflections or the nature of those reflections and how they can express these kind of. So each bedding surface, as all of us know, that it's a pause. It's a like duration of like stopping sedimentation or deposition or a change in the character of sediment. So either one, pause or a change in the character of sedimentation, of sediment. The seismic record of those successions will show conformable reflections, exactly similar to the geologic section. When we see a conformable beds, we will see here conformable reflections. And this will give us indication that these reflections reflect or express individual bedding surfaces. So sometimes you have those individuals, you can see them separated if the seismic method works well. But if you have any one of those limitations, you cannot see the thinner beds. Let's move now to see the parameters used in seismic stratigraphic interpretation. We have to identify the characteristic features of seismic reflection records. And say that again, the characteristic features of seismic reflection records. And this is why it is important to understand the factors that generate the seismic reflections. You need to know what are the causes or the reasons that because of them we have those seismic reflections. Then you can study the characteristic features of seismic reflections. So when we use like a source of seismic waves and send those waves to the earth, and those waves hit an interface between two layers and they reflect back because of the density velocity contrast, or if they meet like an unconformity or bedding surface, they can be related to a depositional feature. It will give you an indication about the depositional features such as lithology, bed thickness, continuity, etc. Seismic parameters. We need to know those parameters that are useful to interpret geologic information. We will study here the configuration, continuity, amplitude, frequency, interval velocity, and external form. First one is configuration, and when we study the configuration and know about the character, the very important character of reflections, which is configuration, this will give us an indication about the bedding pattern and the depositional processes. So this is first character, gives us two important indications about bedding pattern, depositional processes, and also about the erosion and value value topography. Okay, second, continuity. It gives us an indication about the bedding continuity, if the layer is continuing or discontinuing. Also, depositional processes. Now the third one of reflection characters is amplitude, and amplitude is very important character, which gives us indication about the velocity density contrast. And all of us know that velocity density contrast, or the multiplication of velocity and density, we call it acoustic impedance. And it is high when you have two different completely different velocity density contrast between two layers. And also the amplitude will give us an idea about the bedding spacing, and bedding spacing here means the thickness. Sometimes we call it the thickness of specific layer or layers. And it will give us also an idea about the fluid. Okay, frequency. Same thing. Will give us an idea about bed thickness and fluid content. And lastly, the interval velocity will help us to estimate the lithology or the type of lithology, and to give us approximation about the value of the porosity in this specific lithology. Also will give us a idea about the fluid content. In this table, we will see seismic reflection parameters commonly used in seismic stratigraphy. And on the left side, seismic phases parameters, you see reflection configuration, reflection continuity, reflection amplitude, reflection frequency, velocity, and external form. And in front of each one of those, you will see the geologic interpretation as we have discussed or explained before. Here are some examples from this figure. You can see on the left side, you'll see the left side. It's just this explanation how to interpret that. Just this is the drawing, the sketch, and on the right side you will see the real seismic section. So in the configuration, the most important of the reflection parameters is configuration. Okay. And there are 5 basic types of configuration we can talk about now. This is the first character. Parallel pattern, divergent pattern, prograding reflection pattern, like inclination or dipping things, chaotic reflection pattern, and reflection free pattern. So these are the 5 reflection, 5 types of configuration and reflections, and we talk about this next time. So next lecture we will continue talking about the types of configuration of seismic reflections. See you soon. Bye.